I heard that this new isekai is the source of all the common tropes of modern-day isekai, but with well-developed characters and a richer world. Most of all, the main character is learning to be a better person by facing his faults and fears. I also heard that the show actually addresses and criticizes the incel nature of isekai protagonists. Great! Amazing! Looking forward to seeing such a horrible character trait being criticized, and the character finally becoming a decent person. I've been misled. My status as of this video. I've watched the 23 episodes that are out. I haven't read the light novel or the manga. I will be discussing the anime at length, so this is not spoiler-free territory. Okay, so, to start, here are the appeals of the anime I heard other people talking about that convinced me to watch the show in the first place. A deeper world building than most modern isekai, great animation. The light novel it's based on is what popularized the common tropes you see in isekai today. And most importantly to me, the main character by the name of Rudy grows from his previous incarnation, rather than forgetting about the character's past life. Here was the backlash: pedophilia and misogynistic tropes. What's new? Having watched the 23 episodes that are out as of now, the backlash was perfectly justified. Debating on the technicalities of whether Rudy should be considered an adult that looks like a kid or just a kid is a convoluted issue in itself. I believe the details that support the former are more convincing, and for this video, I will be operating on the idea that he is an adult that looks like a kid. Therefore, the situation is this. This man was 34 years old when he died and was reborn into a newborn baby, still retaining his memories and experience as a 34-year-old man. This 34-year-old man takes advantage of his now young physical state and the ignorance of those around him about his real maturity to be lecherous to every woman and girl. I will not be tolerating attempts to lessen this fact by saying that he's physically a kid now. By lessening the fact that he is a grown man and the pedophilia is lessening the character he was intended to be and the intent behind the character. And therefore there are two main reactions you can have to his pedophilic nature: uncomfortable to disturbed, or apathetic to getting off. So how does the anime itself portray the pedophilia and the molesting and sexual assault in order for you to be in the area of uncomfortable or disturbed? The anime has 3 chances. The plot. Let's talk about how it's substantially criticized in the plot. In the second episode, when the main character's siblings find out that he was watching what is assumed to be child porn, they smash the TV and then kick him out of the house. That's it. Let's discuss other repercussions we see for Rudy's behavior when seen in the understanding that once he's reincarnated, the other characters don't know that Rudy is a 34-year-old pedophile and therefore would be viewing his behavior as sexual assault. 1. Lilia is creeped out by him as a baby. 2. When he molests Eris, she puts him in his place. And 3. His little sister wanted nothing to do with her brother because he's a pervert. Let's see how these repercussions actually end up. Lilia is creeped out by him as a baby, but then she becomes grateful to Rudy for saving her life, and the way she wants to repay him is by raising and grooming her little daughter for him. When he molests Eris, she does beat him up, but then, seconds later, she comes in and says she'll wait until he's 15 or of age in this world to have sex with him, showing more restraint than the literal 34-year-old man. His little sister wanted nothing to do with him, but then at the end she is shown to have realized who Rudy truly is despite his attempts to hide his identity, and still wants to travel with him and looks up to him. So that's a no on the plot. How about the characters? None of the adults do anything substantial to criticize or stop Rudy's behavior. In fact, they encourage it, or a lot of the times actively allow him to do these things. The men. Rudy's father, Paul, encourages Rudy's behavior and goes as far as to give advice. Eris's grandfather, Saros, takes advantage of his position and power to hire and have sex with beast women to satisfy his fetish, and teaches his granddaughter to act like a beast woman to ask for things. Philip, Eris's father, has been shown to fetishize beast women, and does the same as his father by teaching his granddaughter to act like beast women to ask for things, and also encourages Rudy's behavior. Ryujerd doesn't address Rudy's behavior, and turns a blind eye to Rudy inappropriately touching Eris. The woman. Zenith, Rudy's mom, doesn't address her son's behavior. Lilia, the maid, is heavily suggested to grooming her own daughter to appeal to and serve Rudy. Roxy, Rudy's master, addresses Rudy's behavior, but does nothing to stop it. And Ghislaine doesn't address Rudy's behavior. There's the argument that it's the medieval times. It's actually a good thing to show the degeneracy of the times. Listen, I love that sex and masturbation is normalized in this story. It's very adult and very mature, and I think sex in itself is made way too big a deal of. And I understand that portraying how nobles took advantage of maids for their own lust is a sign of the times. But when showing the worst of society, you can't take a neutral stance on it, which this show does. You can have sexual themes, but indulging in the sex acts is just participating in the actions you're trying to criticize. It is a lot to ask for mature sexual themes in shonen anime, especially shonen anime where sexual assault and harassment is common. This is seen in the comic relief pervert who is often used in order for the audience to have a chance at sneaking a look or living vicariously through the character touching a female character's chest. I've met many a comic relief pervert in my day, some more funny and decent than the last. I'm used to putting up with it to enjoy the rest of the story. What I can't stand is this concept of a relatively honorable and amazing male character who happens to be a peeping Tom, pervert, molester, rapist, etc. Great men have great lusts. Roxy writes this to Rudy after describing how the prince she's currently teaching picks up magic well, but not as well as Rudy, and also steals her underwear and sneaks looks just like Rudy. Suggesting that 1. Powerful, amazing men come with the urge to commit sexual assault, and 2. That Rudy is also one of those men. There's multiple of these great men in Mushoku Tensei. But let's take a look at Paul. He cheated on his wife, almost killing Lilia and their unborn child indirectly. Then, Lilia tells Rudy that back when they were training together, he raped her. After which, Rudy says that he still respects Paul. Another instance is when Paul's party members call him scum, but then Roxy says, and yet they're still here to help him find his family, suggesting that there is some aspect to him that makes them look past that he's scum. Again, I understand that it's supposed to show the degeneracy of the time period, but in this case, it's leaning more into we should forgive these men their vile nature because they're great, or because they're a good father or grandfather. I understand the attempt to give them a gray nuance, but the way it's done encourages one of the major flaws of Rudy's character, which is that he sexually objectifies women and children. At least, Hisoka is a villain. Pedophilia is condemned by villainous association. And you know what? You know who has never touched a woman or child inappropriately or without their consent? Hisoka. Which is more than you can say about Rudy. There are better jokes than this. Better yet, there are better sex jokes than, literally this character sexually assaults this character. And on the topic of comparing Rudy to his contemporaries, I've heard the argument that if you think a person is a pedophile because they like Mushoku Tensei, it's like saying that if you like Bakugo, you're supporting bullying, or if you support Eren, you support the war crimes he's committed. Let's break that down. I do think it's going too far to say that because you like this show, you're a pedophile, but brushing off the pedophilic nature of the show and urging people to see past it is not the best. It's not about the fans, though. What matters is the way the source media handles these characters. Eren is not painted as a good person after Season 4 started. When he's committing his war crimes, his friends are upset at him. They show the pain the children are in the wake of the attack. And lastly, he is reprimanded by his higher-ups. At this point in the anime, he is not a good person, and the characters voice this. The anime shows this. Meanwhile, Bakugo is 1. A kid. 2. Is criticized in the anime for his behavior by Deku himself, the one time he was portrayed as taking the bullying too far. 3. Is shown to have an improvement in his behavior, though I will agree that they praise Bakugo a lot during Season 1. In these two cases, the anime itself condemns these acts through plot, other characters, or how the anime is directed. Rudy is not a kid, is not criticized in the anime, his friends are never upset with him, his victims don't have any considerable reactions, he isn't reprimanded by any higher-ups, and is not shown to have an improvement in his behavior. Jobless Reincarnation's anime does not condemn Rudy's actions, while Attack on Titan and My Hero Academia do. How about the direction? When Rudy sexually assaults a girl or woman, there are multiple ways to present that. I feel like in anime in general, it usually boils down to two directions, which are seriously or humorously. One tool the direction can use is music. Let's listen to the OST they chose to play over a sexual assault scene. Oh wait, no, that one was the OST that played when Paul unjustly punished Rudy for something he didn't do. This is the one that plays when Rudy tries to take off Eris's underwear in her sleep. Sorry about that. Let's give it a listen. I'm not a big music person, so I can't give a detailed explanation to how the OST is constructed to create certain moods. But from my experience with music, this one sounds lighthearted and indeed mischievous. You would expect if the anime wanted to paint these scenes as serious and bad, then they wouldn't use an OST called Mischief to play over sexual assault. Rudy is just in a silly, goofy mood. Kishirika Kishirisu's character design. Ooh, this was the nail in the coffin. This really made the problem go from just Rudy to the whole show. Because just look at her! Look! And it gets worse. Rudy meets the Demon Empress and saves her from hunger. She asks how he wants to be paid back. Rudy asks for her body sarcastically, expecting that the girl wouldn't go through with it. Except, she starts pulling down her pants. Light shines out from her crotch, and Rudy can't believe his luck. What's so appealing about seeing a kid's crotch? What's so exciting about that? Why is this presented as a joke? Okay, well, that one might be out of the direction's control since it's probably decided that Kishirika looks that way in the original source. How about camera perspective then? The camera is either from a neutral point of view, which is generally shot with the audience in mind, or from Rudy's point of view when he's being scum. And gotta say, they do a good job not doing sexual fanservice when they're supposed to be focusing on the badass fight. They don't waste time and energy focusing on certain parts of the body from Eris to Ghislaine. Are you shitting me? Near the end of Season 2, after reuniting with his little 6-year-old half-sister, Aisha, the daughter of the maid, Lilia, she begs him to let her come with him on his journey, and as an argument says that she'll have a voluptuous body one day. Rudy reprimands both her and Lilia for it. Yay, character development. But the anime, the camera has a shot on her butt and chest as she says this. So is this in Rudy's point of view or the anime's? Is Rudy looking at his 6-year-old sister's butt and chest, or is the anime pedophilic? Why did they do this? What was it for? Who was it for? They could have easily not have done that. They could have done anything but that. A wide shot, just a shot of the girl speaking, the sky, anything but that. Is this a joke? What's the joke? Explain it to me. Is this supposed to be cute? Aw, how cute this little child wants to be sexually appealing to her big brother, but of course that would be wrong? Is that the joke? What is going on? Unless the anime is a hentai or an ecchi, I am of the opinion that sexual fanservice at its most intense and at its most slight absolutely ruins a story. If your characters aren't written well or don't contribute to the whole of the story and are instead there only to be ogled at, then it's not possible to reach the story's full potential. And a lot of the time, female characters are there to be ogled at with no additional substance. I am aware it's almost naive to expect no fanservice from anime, much less shonen anime, but there have been examples such as Attack on Titan, Fullmetal Alchemist, and from what I've heard, Jujutsu Kaisen. Great stories outside of anime such as Avatar The Last Airbender and Lord of the Rings are also examples of this. And if there is fan service, the quality of the story's other parts needs to outweigh it, like Naruto and One Piece. Other than the fact that it's sexual objectification, it gets in the way of telling a good story. How am I supposed to feel the whole weight of the plot and the danger when there's an ass or a pair of boobs taking up most of the screen? There's nothing like an ass shot to immediately take me out of the immersion. Mushoku Tensei is a perfect example of fanservice ruining the story. My main problem isn't that the show is painting pedophilia as normal or that sexual assault is a joke. Nothing morally related. No. It's that the normalization of pedophilia and the use of comedy to portray it as a joke is getting in the way of the writing. I'm not here to tell you about the immorality of ignoring pedophilia and sexual assault played for laughs, or how it's a given that anime watchers should watch with a critical eye. I'm here to tell you that it's ruining the show's potential to be amazing. The story is about Rudy seizing the blessing of a second chance at life to be the person he could have been by facing his fears and his faults to grow from them. We agree that sexually objectifying women is a huge flaw, right? The fact that the sexual assault and pedophilia are not taken seriously undermines the rest of Rudy's development, because even if Rudy stops sexually assaulting the female characters, it's not supported by the show itself. And it makes it so that the rest of Rudy's character development doesn't matter and doesn't hold weight in comparison, such as building confidence in himself and overcoming his fear of the outside world. When the anime is shot and directed to undermine pedophilia and sexual assault, it does not cast these as flaws. How does it appear when the biggest character flaws aren't taken seriously? Wow, men sexually objectify and assault women? How quirky of them! How does the anime take Paul's failed attempt to parent his son as more serious than literal pedophilia and sexual assault? Try to look past it. Enjoy the story that it's trying to portray. Well, it's not letting me, is it? It's not letting me forget about it. The main plot might as well be about committing as many sex offenses with how much is integrated into the story. And remember the comedic relief pervert? Usually there's only one, which at least means that when they're absent, you don't have to worry. But in this show, there's about 4, and one of those is the main character. And wasn't that what this show was about? Confronting the ugly nature of a real person and them learning to be better? The problem is that the anime hasn't given me proof that they will handle this situation with any more depth than they already have. I can see that the anime is going to gradually and subtly shift away from sexualizing minors as time passes and they grow into adults in order to show Rudeus' growth. But that's not good enough. The anime as it is as of now should have already done something, anything, from the plot to the characters to the direction, to have cast the pedophilia and sexual assault in a worser light, because the fact is, this 34-year-old man, now 48, is having a romantic plotline with a 16-year-old girl who thinks he's 14. The greatest pull this isekai has is that the main character who was once scum takes this chance to become a better person. Well, they should probably get on that. Alright, in light of all of that, here are some other ways I thought the story could have handled this and still had the pedophilic scenes as is. Not an isekai route. Rudy could have grown up surrounded by men who treated women as objects and become lecherous scum but then learned not to be. a righteous environment. The adults act like grown-ups and actually call Rudy out for his behavior. The woman Rudy assaults reacts more appropriately with horror or disgust. Eris's opinion should have gone down about Rudy at the very least when he was about to pull off her underwear in her sleep. I think Rudy's original parents failed him by letting him stew in his trauma and self-pity when they should have pushed him out in the world again. I think he would have benefited from having more mature parents who call out his behavior. Rudy isn't born with all of his memories. He's born with all of his faults, the fear of the outside, the paranoia that everybody's out to get him, the misogyny, the pedophilia, but he unlocks those memories by either experiencing those things in his new life or something related to those memories. He has an innate desire to do everything he can with his new life without realizing why, and every time he meets up with a human god, he is aware of everything, and once he wakes up again, everything is not clear once more. This way, he really is a kid. All of that shitty stuff he does is more palatable, and you still see him be affected by his past life and become a better person. A twist. Maybe. Unless the whole point of the anime framing shots like it's equating fan service with pedophilia is because later they're going to make a grand reveal that Rudy is actually a 30-year-old man to the people in his life. And then they look back on those scenes where he molested Eris, where it was framed as fan service, to now be something vile and disgusting. Unless the Demon Empress is actually a symbol for the absolute sin that is pedophilia, and they'll actually do a whole haha, this was the message all along, and that's why she was awoken and looks like a child, because of how rampant inappropriate sexual desire is. Because if this perverted behavior is not addressed appropriately, then what is the point of including it? In conclusion, the concept of Rudy being a pedophile and misogynistic incel and gradually learning not to be after coming to the understanding that what he's doing is wrong and having the will to change is great. But the anime and story need to make it clear that his actions and attitude are bad things with framing done through shots, music, etc. As it is now, the plot and the anime is supporting these flaws by painting them as humor and without actual consequences rather than condemning them, effectively lessening the impact of his character growth into a decent person. Misogynistic fanservice has in the past been a tone breaker, has lessened the impact of the overall story with weak female characters, and now in Mushoku Tensei has taken the utmost extreme by negating the very message and foundation the story is built on. Last thoughts and rating. It has nowhere to go but up. Since Rudy is growing up, that means less young girls. The anime is still in its early stages, so the world building isn't amazing. The setup is there to hopefully be amazing in the future though. But as is, I score this a 6 or C, and my personal score is a 3. The score may change based on how the story is handled in the future. The animation is breathtaking though. In lieu of this, I would like to recommend an anime to satisfy your needs. I watched 12 Kingdoms as a kid, and it's the best isekai I've ever seen. I didn't even know what isekai was back then. It's all the appeals of Mushoku Tensei but done better, amazing world building, the flaws the main character had in the main world affect her in her journey in the isekai world. Just so you know though, it doesn't have lighthearted scenes as much as modern anime do, so it's a bit heavy. And the anime isn't too well produced since it was made quite a bit ago, so the animation isn't going to be on par with Mushoku Tensei. That's all from me. Leave your thoughts below, please be respectful to other commenters, and thank you for listening.